And we are live. What is going on, my specialist SPC here? And yes, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Talkalorian Live. As you guys see, I am here with Andy and Ren once again. And we got a lot to talk about, gentlemen. A lot to talk about. So, Ren,
Yes,
you were most anticipated for this episode, so I want you to start off.
All right, let's start off. Like everything I was expecting to love in this episode, I did. And we knew this was the Ahsoka episode. I was looking forward to that. She's one of my favorite characters. What I did not expect was for my highlight of the episode to be something else. Because earlier in the season, we have Bo-Katan dropping the name, and we're like, all right, here we go, Ahsoka Tano. And now that name drop just seems mundane compared to what was dropped this episode. I was elated. I jumped out of my couch. My housemates thought I was having an attack of some kind. Yeah, I got blue. No pun intended, because I wasn't breathing almost. So I can't wait to talk about this, man.
Damn, man. Oh, and Andy.
Yeah, I mean, last week y'all recommended I watch the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, and I realized I'd forgotten to do it, so I plowed through them this morning. And then I realized I watched the last 2, the 3rd and 4th last episodes of season 1, and I was like, man, why did they tell me to watch this? And then I realized what went on, and I was like, oh, so I switched gears to the Siege of Mandalore, and oh my gosh, yeah, seeing a tie-in, seeing Ahsoka crash land, seeing everything. So then we fast forward to this episode of The Mandalorian, and I'm just like, wow, okay, 1, yeah, we knew she was still alive, but 2, yeah, having Thrawn drop, having that name drop, I mean, everything's coming together. I gotta watch. I gotta watch Rebels and Clone Wars now. I'm convinced. Oh my gosh, all of it. Good night,
yes, man. We've converted him, Austin. We converted Andy.
Yes, we got this. Yeah, man. Wow, there was don't get me wrong. I knew this episode was going to be good because I can say I was impressed with Filoni last season. And again, like we just talked about with Clone Wars and Rebels and all that, he's got that talent. He's got that. I'm going to say it. I had some mixed feelings on him at first when he came into the show, but man, I want him to have his own movie. I
could see that.
Yeah, he needs to direct his own Star Wars movie, and it has to star Ahsoka because he did such a phenomenal job with this episode. Just everything with the cinematography, the setting, the dialogue too. My Lord.
And that honestly goes back to what we were talking about last week about just them spawning off more miniseries. I could see an Ahsoka miniseries. I'd watch that. Like a live action with Rosario Dawson. I think that would be worthwhile.
I agree.
Yeah, she definitely stood out to me in this episode as just nothing against Ashley Eckstein. I mean, she does do a phenomenal job voicing Ahsoka, but I'm going to say this is now my favorite version of Ahsoka. She is just fierce. She's a badass. She's just straightforward with everything that she says, and she's very Yoda-ish in this episode because you get a lot of those Luke on Dagobah feels, just the environment, the way they interact and everything. It's perfect.
Wait, dumb question. Was that not Rosario Dawson? I should have fact checked that.
That was Rosario Dawson.
Okay, good.
On Mandalorian it was, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I was like, oh no. Yeah.
Did you guys notice the owl on the episode?
I did, yes.
Wait. Notice the what?
So you watch the final episodes of Clone Wars. When Vader goes to get her saber, he looks up and there's an owl.
Yes.
Okay, that owl is also in this episode of The Mandalorian, and in Rebels yet. So I wonder, but that owl is connected to Ahsoka and Anakin. So there's a whole story in there why the owl always shows up whenever Ahsoka or Anakin are around.
Okay, I did not notice that. Wow. I mean, I noticed the owl. I just didn't know there was a connection. Wow, that's awesome.
That was the first thing I noticed when they came to that scene. I'm like, "There's the owl! Oh my god, there's the owl!"
Yeah. Same.
like,
Oh my gosh.
Like, see, for me, somebody who knows like what happens, at least in Rebels, and what happens in Clone Wars, and like getting to see that now live action. Oh, like I will say it, man. To steal what Ren said, I turned into like a 5-6-year-old giddy little girl watching this episode. This is the first full episode where we get straight up lightsaber action, and it was phenomenal.
I mean, realistically, if you had told me we're going to get some lightsaber action, like in the first season, if you had told me that's where they were like headed towards, I would have been okay with it. But like, I mean, just from the direction of the series, like I would have been fine without lightsaber action. So that finally coming into play, finally having a Jedi like and the Force more directly, talked about, that was, man, like you said, that was a payoff I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I agree.
Even to Ahsoka now sending Mando essentially almost on like
Another
mission. Yeah, another fetch quest. I mean,
yeah.
The way I view Mando now having to take whose name was revealed, and we will get into that a little bit later, but taking the child to, I don't remember what the planet is. I mean, if you guys remember.
It was Tython, I think, or
Tython. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking them and putting him on like the highest peak on the mountain and letting him reach out with the Force. I got a lot of like Lord of the Rings vibes, like Frodo taking the ring to Mordor.
I was thinking like, I don't know why. I was thinking X-Men, like Dr. X using like Cerebro or whatever. Like, let me check if there are any other mutants out there. I mean, Force users.
I got callbacks to something in Rebels and to The Last Jedi, to when Luke is training Rey.
Yeah. I mean, because you go into the fact that he's saying, I've never felt, something like this with Rey, but also, exactly. I mean, that's also just Anakin's storyline as well, is that they don't want to make, they don't want to up his rank because he's too emotional. So,
yeah. And I love that. I love that Ahsoka is so traumatized. Oh no, I'm not training that kid. That's for sure. But also, the fact that he's in the peak on the mountain and he calls out to Jedi, it also reminds me of the Force connection that is generated between Rey and Kylo Ren, and so maybe that's how he will communicate with Jedi, if any at all responds. And I have my theories on who could it be. I'm sure we'll get to that, but just everything. Visually alone, this episode might be by far the best. I'm extremely impressed with Dave Filoni because I'm a fan of his. And we've discussed it here. I was not a fan overall of his work as a director in the first episode because it was the first time he was directing live action. You guys watched as well the Mandalorian Gallery, which is like docu-series, and he talks about it. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm so happy I had Jon Favreau like to guide me because he new to this, but the growth he displays, if you go and watch that was he directed in season 1 and now go watch this, it's insane growth. But I also enjoy that there's for lack of a better term, an animated quality to the way Ahsoka moves and the way her action is choreographed. And now she's always perfectly in the center of each shot when she stops fighting, and there's always this just so many cool shots throughout the Twitterverse. Yesterday of yesterday's episode, it was insanely gratifying to see how Filoni has come. So at this point, I gotta agree with you, Austin, that I would be okay with him being movie to direct at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just like we just said, man, that the cinematography of this episode was, I would agree, probably the best so far in the series. I mean,
I did have one gripe about this episode. The cinematography. What, man? My only main gripe is like how dark it was. You know what I mean? I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like dark, murky, like is good, especially for everything going on. But it just felt like hard to see sometimes. I don't know if like that's my eye, but like, to pick up on some of it. The fight scenes, the action was like incredibly well done, right? But just some of the scenes, especially in the opening, with how dark it was, like, was hard to make out some things for me. It was incredibly well choreographed. Everything. I just wish it were like a little brightened up so I could see things. But hey, it's night. It's supposed to be murky. It's supposed to be you're not tracking her movements. So it's give and take. It's give and take.
Mm-hmm. I got a lot of horror movie vibes from that opening.
I agree, because I felt like we were being swerved. Like, we think these guys are the good guys at first. It's not until we realize, oh, it's Ahsoka, that the tables are turned and we were actually following the bad guys, and she's a quote-unquote monster in that horror sequence.
I mean, that's
one thing. This one thing this show's done good, man, is the horror sequences, like quote-unquote, if we can say.
Well, I mean, that's why when we were talking about, when we talk about season 1, that's why I liked, I think it's episode 6, chapter 6 so much, is when he's taking out his old crew. He's just like trucking through them. He's the movie monster. It's awesome. And he's still lethal. He hasn't let up on that. So yeah, those horror movie sequences or cross-genre sequences are always a treat.
Speaking of that, man, this did not have that Western feel to me. This had more of a straight up like samurai feel to it. The entire episode.
Yeah.
Yes. It was oozing with Kurosawa vibes. I thought specifically of Seven Samurai and Rashomon, which, funny enough, The Last Jedi is also very influenced by.
Well, I mean, that's important that they do that. We've, because Lucas's like predominant genre influences, right, for Star Wars were samurai films and westerns. So, I mean, we have like our little like quick draw scene with Mando and
Michael Biehn.
Yeah. Yes.
Kyle Reese.
But yeah, exactly. So,
I thought I heard that voice somewhere else before. I kept listening. I'm like, who is that? And then they got to the end credits. I'm like, Michael Biehn. And I went back and I watched the scene you were just talking about with their little standoff. I'm like, okay. And even too, like we were just talking about the standoff between Mando and Michael Biehn. I guess I don't remember what his character's name is. Lang. And then Ahsoka and
the Magistrate.
I'm never going to remember that.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you. But I liked how with Ahsoka and her, it was like a samurai standoff. And then you go to Mando and it's just Western. So you get both sides just melded together. And it was, like I keep saying, man, just...
I also really enjoy getting to see a pure Belcar staff, like a pure Belcar weapon against a lightsaber. That was so beautiful to see someone who does not have a lightsaber be able to finally like fend one off. Like that's just such a cool thought. It's like anytime you see a Jedi, it's like, oh, well, you need another lightsaber, but man, that was so nice.
And you know who that was? The actress I only found out after watching the episode and doing the review, but that's Bruce Lee's granddaughter.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Rock and roll.
I was shocked.
What?
I know. That was my reaction exactly.
Gosh, that's freaking they're going hard with this. I mean, you talk about that. You talk about voice actors stepping into roles. You talk about them tying in directly, not even like tangentially, but tying in directly to Rebels and Clone Wars. I mean, this episode was we crossed the Rubicon. It felt like just a lot kicked into gear in this episode. It's what I've been like looking for in the series. It's like up till now,
Yeah, couldn't agree more, man.
I love this show so much more now. Just hearing that, man, that is insane.
Yes. And now Mando has got an anti-Darksaber weapon ready to go. He's now.
See, that is the question I wanted to start asking was like, where's this? How is Mando even going to be able to fight like Gideon? Is he just going to use his armor? But now he's got a new weapon added to the arsenal, and it.
I didn't even think about that.
This show is so good,
man.
Are we ready? I am. I want to know what you guys think. Are we ready to say? And I loved season 1, but are we ready to say that season 2 is better than season 1?
Give me one more episode. Give me one more. Give me one more episode because season 2 got off to a bit of a shaky start. Well, got off to a great start and then started to get a little shaky. Also,
Yeah.
I need to wait till the finale, man. If the finale topples the last finale, then yeah, as much as I love that first episode of the entire series, it's still my favorite episode in all honesty, but I need to wait till the finale.
I mean, right now, yeah, Ren and Austin, to y'all's point, I definitely say this is leaning more towards equal footing with the first series to me thus far. I feel like chapter 13 really counterbalanced for me in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, I will say probably the middle part of The Mandalorian from season 1. I would say right now, yes, it's better the midsection of the series when you get to chapter 4, even chapter 5 to an extent, and chapter 6. I mean, right now the middle section is better than the midsection of last season, but as an overall season, I gotta wait, unfortunately.
Understandable. I understand.
I mean, no joke, dude. If the season finale is amazing, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say this is perfect Star Wars.
Woo! Austin dropping the bomb right here. You heard it here
all
first,
the time.
Folks.
I'll give you that. I'm of the thought that this is better than we've all talked about it. This is better than the prequel movies and the new trilogy for me. I mean, already both seasons are. So I'm willing to say this is at least top class. Top class Star Wars already. It's evoking so many of those original original trilogy vibes. It's making direct allusions to things. It's not shying away from tying in everything that is canon or people might be canon. I'd say based on that, it's top class.
My question for you now, Andy, is this better? Do you like this better than Rogue One?
Oh, dang it. I don't know. Honestly, I actually no, I do. Off the top of my head, yeah, I would say, full commit. Yeah, I think this is better than Rogue One to me. Just because Rogue One was great, but Mandalorian has so many vibes I just love. Like I said, the Western vibes, even these little kind of horror elements. The fact that you have a hero or a protagonist, that is an unstoppable force, and they don't shy away from that. Any scene he's in, you basically know he's gonna. There's a very low chance of him being outgunned in a scene. It's they have to someone has to think tactically to work against him, or they have to severely outnumber him. Mm-hmm. And even then, he might still overcome. So, but yeah, this is better than Rogue One to me. Hot take.
I mean, I like Rogue One, man. It's one of my top 4 favorite Star Wars films. But yeah, it's creeping up there behind Empire as my favorite. I'm not gonna lie, man. I love Revenge of the Sith is my second favorite Star Wars, but this show, man, it's taking it.
Wow.
Dang.
This
I top 4 is still untouchable.
I guess. Unfortunately, man, that one's number 8 on my ranking. Unfortunately.
Oh.
I'm gonna say this. This is past Austin hot take.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Episode 4 was for me the worst Star Wars film because it was it used to be so slow, but now, man. Yeah, I know. But now I've gotten older and I've become a lot more attached to Star Wars, and I've dug deep and I've watched and learned a lot more, and I had a new love for it, and I'm even gonna willingly say it too. Rogue One definitely helped me really enjoy that film way more than I ever have.
Huh. Mm. But I can see that, because it bridges the gap between what leads to episode 4. It bridges the gap to what leads to the Resistance, having an actual chance, or the Rebellion having a chance. So I mean, I give you that 100%.
Yeah, I understand that too.
Yeah, I don't like putting it that low on the list, but even like Solo, man, I loved Solo. That movie was so much fun, but
I really enjoyed Solo too. That was really fun.
I had to put it down at number 9, unfortunately. I mean,
Really?
yeah, I mean,
to me, the original trilogy is still up there for me. Like they're the Holy Trinity. They're untouchable. Return of the Jedi is still the best one, I know, in popular opinion. Hot take right here for myself. But those three are like they're one movie for me. They're untouchable. And after that, it's Return of the Jedi. It's The Last Jedi, and then Force Awakens. But Mandalorian is climbing up there, like as a whole story.
Yeah, man. This show, man, like I said, it's almost perfect. Like,
yeah,
I need to see that ending. I need to see how he does against Gideon. I mean,
or if we're even getting that showdown this season. You know what I mean?
Giancarlo, he teased it. He teased we're going to get a big duel. And I gotta ask you guys, because like, I know we still aren't talking about that name drop, and you know how much I want to talk about it. But if this was just the Ahsoka episode, which is already a big highlight in itself, but now we have 3 episodes left. If they're just good, which is awesome if they are going to be good episodes, they gotta have something in their pocket. I gotta believe they have something left for the next 3 episodes, because they're not gonna blow their proverbial load on episode 5 and have 3 episodes after this.
Well,
what do you guys think?
I guess like before that, Ren, I want to know your thoughts, because you said you got an idea who the Jedi they might be going to be is. I think I want to I'm just bringing that up because I do want to talk about that later. But yeah, Austin, what do you think about what Ren said about those last 3 episodes?
I mean, with what they've been doing this season, I could see, especially the season finale, I could see them just blowing everything out of the water. I mean, like you said, you know, we got Bo-Katan in episode 3, Ahsoka's name dropped in episode 3. And I mean, we got Ahsoka now, live action. The name dropped that Ahsoka dropped in the episode, which again, we're going to get into that because that's pretty big news. But I don't know, man. I feel like there's going to be one more ball dropped, and it's going to just trail us into this 3rd season. It's going to probably be the stepping stone for the 3rd season.
Yeah, I agree. I have a few theories on who the Jedi could be. One that I dismissed initially, and if you go watch my review, I completely dismiss it. But the more and more I think about it, I'm like, it's not that impossible. And that could be Luke, if any Jedi at all contacts, replies to Baby Yoda's Force text. I need to preface that if any at all, could be Luke, could be Jamie Lee Curtis, whoever she's playing. We don't know yet, but she could be whoever the Jedi is. Rahul Kohli from Haunting of Hill House of Bly Manor. I'm sorry. He has been trolling with his Twitter that he's going to be playing Ezra because everyone wants him to play Ezra. So could be that. Could be the guy from Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis. Or, and this is my favorite theory that I did not remember until very after my review, and I was like, damn it. But there's a certain Star Wars show coming out next year, and nothing says that the Jedi contacting Baby Yoda needs to be alive, but it could be Obi-Wan. He could come in and say, hello there.
Huh. Now that I think about it, yeah, just because if you're like putting out this massive, like you said, Force push, Force beacon, you know, even if he doesn't get a Jedi, he could get Force ghosts, you know, so yeah. I don't know. Huh.
Could be Yoda himself.
Yeah, I never even thought about like Force ghosts. Like I was with you, man, like watching your review. I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, as of now, it's very open that we don't know what's happening with Cal. And I know, everybody's been talking about Ezra. I mean, again, I know what happens in that last episode of the Rebel show, but I mean, that's still wide open. I mean, it's the toss of a coin, man. It could be anybody.
if it wasn't for that name drop, I wouldn't think Ezra was possible. So there's that.
I mean, anything's, once again, I need to watch Rebels and Clone Wars just because of how I didn't realize how heavily it was going to tie into this season. And I mean, that was alluded to by the fact that Moff Gideon had the Darksaber at the end of season 1, so, but I didn't realize they were going to like just full send on it. But yeah, like anything, Austin, to your point, Ren, to your point too, is like anything can happen at this point. I really don't know what to expect. For first season, I could kind of see the end coming. Not really, right? But I mean, like, that's usually how you end shows like this. Is you have like a 2-part episode, like 2-part, like kind of a part 1, part 2 for the end of the season. So I think they're still going to do that for this season. But how they get there, like what that would even entail, I have no idea. Because next episode might be kind of like a one-off sort of like mini quest, and then hopefully better than episode 2, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I found out actually is the trailer we got for season 2. We have now seen all of that.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, we have now seen everything in the first half of the season. Now the whole second half of the season, they're leaving it for us, man. And I mean,
I can't wait.
Did not think about that.
I think that's why they've been so hush on it, is because they want to save the good stuff for last.
Yeah. Oh.
As to what it is, man, whatever's going to be at the end of that rainbow, better be one huge pot of gold.
I'm thinking it's going to be a very, very big pot of gold the more and more I think about it. Because, like, even on a story standpoint, they're not going to send Mando, have Baby Yoda on the top of the mountain, and no one reaches out to him, and then he's got to go back to Ahsoka and say, hey, nothing happened. What now? And he goes to yet another planet. So, like, someone is going to have to answer, or it's going to be crawling with Sith, or someone's already going to be there reaching out as well. Who knows? I
mean, and that's another thing, right? Is how sure are we that temple is only going to reach out to Jedi? You know what I mean? Is exactly. Like when he's putting that energy out there, how do we know that he ain't going to be like super targeted by every Sith out there still in the galaxy? So
yeah. Also, he has a tracker on the Razor Crest. It didn't come into the fold this episode, but he's either going to find his way into that Jedi temple, or that's going to be like in the penultimate episode, and then we have something else entirely in the finale.
Gosh. I mean, I'm guessing like the end of season, this season then would be him meeting that Jedi. Is like what this is, either him meeting this Jedi or something, or some other fetch quest coming up. I mean, like you said, that Moff Gideon showdown is like 99% going to happen. But we also haven't seen what Moff Gideon's doing with his like death droids or death troopers or whatnot. So
yeah.
See, I would like a full episode dedicated to Moff Gideon, because we haven't gotten really much from him this season. All we've really gotten from him was that hologram call with the guys in the ship.
Yeah.
And the ending of the previous episode, I guess, with the death troopers or whatever we're going to call them. The Mando troopers, as I'm still theorizing.
Yeah.
I am still curious if, you know what? I just lost my train of thought. Oh man,
that old age, Andy.
Seriously, I'm getting there.
I'm curious if we see Mando, like he knows that the Razor Crest went to this planet of Corvus. Does he go there before going directly to Mando and finds Ahsoka, and there's a duel there as well? Because I don't think it's right on a story standpoint to take the killing of Moff Gideon from Mando, but they damn well not have Moff Gideon kill Ahsoka, that's for sure. But I think it could be interesting if he goes to that planet and stumbles into Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
Or he might not even know Ahsoka's there. He might just wipe out the village, or purge it for information.
For sure. For sure. Speaking of Moff Gideon, throughout in this episode, Then there's the part where they team up and Mando goes in and Ahsoka goes in. I'm sorry, and she has that plate of Beskar, and she's like, "Your bounty hunter failed." And then she says something about the magistrate's master, and I was watching it with my housemate, and she was like, "Oh, who is her master? Is she a Sith?" And I'm like, "No, it's not that way. It's Moff Gideon. Of course, it's Moff Gideon. She works for the Empire. It's Moff Gideon. It has to be Moff Gideon." Little did I know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say this, Ren. I know as much as you want to talk about, I want to save that for last because it's
Okay.
so huge, man. I mean, but the other big thing that happened in this episode, you guys, we got the backstory of Baby Yoda.
I'm mad.
You're mad.
I'm mad because like my clone theory was half true. You know, like that this could be a Yoda. My clone theory was like half true, like where they're probably harvesting him for midichlorians, but also he's 50 years old. So yeah, that was a big.
Yeah, man. I mean, we now know what his true name is, and I'm mixed on it, man. I mean, it's gonna be so hard not to call him Baby Yoda or even just call him the child, but we now know Baby Yoda's name is Grogu. I want to know where they came up with that name, man.
I'm so
they burst a blood cell, but coming up with that.
I'm so also confused by the fact that there is like a big. I mean, he was trained, you know, like you said, like they were saying, by Jedi's, like in Jedi Temple for years, and now his powers are suppressed. So I'm curious, like what his mental state is at, or his developmental state. If he's actually like childlike, maybe he's just acting childlike. Was his development stunted? Is he like, you know, just slower maturity? You know, like there's so many more questions I have now because him and Ahsoka had dialogue. You know, they were talking. So
even though we unfortunately couldn't understand it, but yeah, no, they understood each other very well.
Yeah, I like the name. I think it's a really cute name. Now, I'm probably gonna end up still calling him Baby Yoda from time to time, but I like the name, and I don't think it's a thing that they're like dictating on us to call him Grogu from now on and nothing else. You know, but I like that theory, Andy. However, I think he's not acting up per se, because the general information that IG-11 had about the species in general is that at this age, at 50 years old, they are like human babies.
Oh, yeah. He said that in episode 1. You're right.
That's the only reason why I still think he's a baby. But I'm curious now, because he was raised there at the High of the Republic. So he is already being raised there as he was like a fetus, basically, in comparison. But also, who are his parents? Because as far as we know, Yoda was the only one in Coruscant. Yaddle exists, I guess. She's in Phantom Menace, but she's not in anything else. But now that we know his backstory, where he was when he was there, is he actually a direct offspring of Yoda? Is he literally Baby Yoda, even though he now has a name?
Yeah, I guess he could still be a clone. Never mind, my theory's back on. Let's go.
Swerve.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that actually, I didn't expect them to say that that's where he was. Like, he was there at the height of the Republic. He survived Order 66, the rise of the Empire, and he went into hiding. I mean, he's very similar, as a name we just brought up here, Cal Kestis. It's the exact same way with him. We see his story 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. His connection to the Force is completely broken, and he's been subverting his Force abilities so that Inquisitors can't find him, or just the Empire in general. So, I mean, this episode had so much. I mean, we had prequel kind of callbacks, I guess we could say. We got Fallen Order kind of callbacks, similar backstory to Cal and Grogu now.
Yeah.
I mean...
Also, it's important to say I love how much now when Mando calls him by his name, he's all happy and his ears perk up and the most adorable thing ever. It was just a great episode not to see him in danger ever at any point.
Yeah.
My heart felt safe.
Also, as a small little, this is gonna sound so weird. As a small little nod, like I really or nitpick, not nitpick, but like I really like that Ahsoka saw them off. You know, like they were on, like she didn't just like ghost him. You know, like just vanish. Like she actually like saw him off. They left on good terms. Really amicably. I know that just cinched the episode for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
Didn't have a Batman James Gordon moment.
Exactly. No, but for real.
Why does he always do that? He always disappears. Yeah, he's good at that.
Have you guys seen them? Not to deviate too much, but have you seen the memes of Batman, but you can see him run away from the conversation? It's so good.
I think College Humor or someone has a video on that where he's just running all. I can still see.
He's running away like this.
The S stands for hope. Hope doesn't start with an S, stupid.
That's good.
College humor, man. Yeah, man. I mean that backstory for Baby Yoda, like I was with you, Andy. Like I was so hell bent that he was a clone of Yoda in some way, shape, or form. Like I said, they were saving him for the essence of Palpatine. When he dies, he could become more powerful again. Still, fingers crossed, man. Hopefully our theory's still going.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I'm also there's just so many. That's what I like about when you flesh out a character's backstory like this. Like that's the perfect way to flesh it out, because then it raises more questions. You know what I mean? It helps you have a little bit of a payoff enough to still be vested without ruining the fullness of what they have in store. So I really like that.
Yeah. All right, Ren. Well, here we go. Here's your moment, man.
Woo! So throughout this episode, I was like, it's Moff Gideon. It's got to be Moff Gideon. They're building up to that confrontation. And then Ahsoka's fighting, and she's like, where is your master? Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? And I'm going to back up from the mic because I was like, whoa! What the hell? Hold up. I did not see that coming. I might as well show these. I'm a huge fan of this character. I think I talked to Austin last week before you came on in, and before we started the show, but I went to Star Wars Celebration London in 2016.
Oh.
And that was actually when they revealed that Thrawn was going to come back to canon in Rebels, and they were going to do a book. And every year at the end of Celebration, they post like a big 4 or 5 minute highlight video. And I'm actually immortalized in that highlight video from the side. I'm like looking, I'm biting my finger because I'm like, holy shit, Thrawn has been revealed. So I'm a huge fan of this character. I love him in Rebels. I think the fact that he's in Rebels alone is enough for me to recommend the show. He's an extremely fascinating character. I want to be very careful how I say, because what's dangerous about him is his mind, because he explores cultures and planets, and he goes into their religions and philosophies.
Oh yeah,
and the way society works in each planet to try to destroy them with that knowledge.
Well, that's like.
Go ahead.
No, especially this is weird, like because we've been talking about samurai influence. I've talked about the game. We've talked about the game before, but that's why I like. What is it? Ghost of Tsushima so much, right? Is the main villain Khotun Khan does the same thing. He explores cultures. He uses their cultures, their ways, their like against them. And based on what you're saying about Thrall, because I haven't watched Rebels, that's what makes him lethal. Is he's taking the time to dissect his opponent, and then it kind of becomes Machiavellian. I mean that in terms of Machiavelli had like these 2 huge principles about what to do if you want to avoid conflict or whatever. Either A, you reward someone beyond measure so that, there's no hope of them turning against you, or B, you decimate everything they know and love so that their children's children won't even think of stepping to you. So that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from you right now is.
Yeah, I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, but from what you're saying, from what you're describing, it's exactly that. I also advise, even before you start watching Rebels, just after this, go onto YouTube and type in Star Wars Rebels Thrawn theme. His theme is awesome. It's menacing. It's like this organ orchestration that is so haunting, so beautiful. I also called out the fan cast on my review, if I might repeat it here, because Taika Waititi, he directed an episode of The Mandalorian last season. He was also in Mandalorian as an actor, and he just got done doing it. He was the voice of IG.
Oh,
11, sorry.
Y'all told me that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and he directed the finale, and now he just directed a movie starring Michael Fassbender. So Disney, just do it. It's just tie those strings together, Disney. But yeah, suffice to say, I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, this is.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, it's one of the few examples that you can bring a character from Legends continuity into Star Wars canon, because I didn't know anything about this character. I have the first Thrawn book. I haven't touched it yet. I bought it like a year or two ago, but I haven't opened it, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, because he's hailed as like one of the best Star Wars villains to date. He's up there with like Palpatine and Vader, and he's got a new trilogy of books now, but he has a former trilogy of books, the heir to the Empire. Yes, heir to the Empire. Yeah.
That one is not canon anymore, but I also recommend that one. I prefer that one to the one that's actually canon right now, but I still love this new one. I'll also say that the first one on this new trilogy, Austin, I like it. It's a good book. It's the worst out of the three.
Really?
Yes, but all of them are the same author, Timothy Zahn.
Because he did the other ones too, right? The original trilogy.
Yeah. He did that one and this new one. So he created Thrawn. He's very much the guy who created from nothing.
Man, yeah, because I know there's a part in the second book, if I remember right. He meets Anakin from during like the prequel times, and then he teams up with Vader as well, right? Something like that.
It's not in the. It's in the third. It's in the third book. No, it's in the second. Book? You're right. It's in the because I had them out of order, but yeah, it's in the one alliances, and then there's treason, which the title implies enough without me saying anything else.
It's treason, then.
Yes, but they are in different timelines. The previous trilogy, which is not canon anymore, was like at this time of that Mando is set in. It was immediately after, in fact, of Return of the Jedi, and this new trilogy is between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Huh. So that also brings up something I'm curious, right? As soon as they name drop Thrawn, I'm like, because I'm like slightly familiar with the character, I'm just curious about his and Gideon's working relationship. Like I need to see how that ties in, right? I mean,
he would be superior to Gideon.
Oh wait, isn't that? Oh snap! Because in the last episode, Gideon mentions he's serving someone.
Oh, that's right.
So would that be it? I mean, based on what you're saying, is like Thrawn is hailed as like a freaking, he's hailed as a freaking legend even among the Empire. So I mean, that kind of dictates some level of just like almost like we were talking about fanatical servitude. So
yeah, now I gotta be careful because that implies things for the treason book. Because that actually makes Gideon a much more interesting character. Because we also talked about last week about how the very bases and creeds of the Empire is that they're fascists, they're racists, but actually Thrawn is the one alien in the Empire. He's the one being who's not human to be in the Empire. So that he basically represents minorities, and now they got to work within a fascist system. So that's another thing that makes the character fascinating.
Huh.
But Moff Gideon being clearly a minority himself, that might be an indication as to where his allegiances lie.
Huh. Yeah, there's so much going on now.
That's a good call, Andy.
That opens a lot of weird
Congratulations
doors.
to you. Until you brought it up, I was like, he didn't say he was working for someone. Like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that makes him so unique is he's kind of like, well, I guess kind of in a sense like Yoda. He's like the only one of his kind we ever see on screen. He's a Chiss, right? That's his.
He's a schist, yeah. There's information about what happened to his species on the book. I don't want to spoil it, but it makes the relationship between him and the people he serves and who he works for very interesting.
So what is Thrawn's like rank and thing? Is he like directly below Palpatine? Is he?
He is. Yes, he is directly below Palpatine. He would be. He's even superior to Moff Tarkin.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Next, they're Grand Moffs, right?
Yeah, Grand Moffs, and then there's Grand Admirals. I'm sorry. It's either he's either superior or on par with Tarkin.
I feel like he might be on
I'll
par
search
with.
it.
I feel like he might be on par with Tarkin because Vader and Tarkin talk directly to Palpatine, right? So, I mean,
Yes, but also in the books, he also responds only to the Emperor. He's the only person he has to call back to.
fair
Yeah, because I know seasons 3 and 4 he plays a pretty big role in Rebels, right?
Yes, he's the main villain in seasons 3 and 4, which is curious after you see the season 2 finale, you're like, oh my god, who's coming up next? And then you have the reveal, Thrawn in season 3.
Yeah, he's just, from what I hear, he's supposed to be like one of the best characters, and I'd love to get to like know more about him because he just sounds so interesting.
Well, and based on that, I feel like Thrawn might not be in this season, or if he is, it might be a brief illusion. Like based on how BA he is, he might be a bigger threat in like, season 3, or I don't know, something like that. Because Moff Gideon is still a focal point antagonist, so I don't know where Thrawn fits into things. But the fact that he's name dropped is either way, it sets the tone for where the rest of the series is going, or rest of the season is going.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and even like I know Ren, he's talked about it not only just with us, but he's talked about it with his pal Zach from the Zach Pope channel. He's talked about this impending Rebels sequel show, and I don't know if this is going to also help get that started. Are we going to be getting that turned into live action now that you've been able to prove that animated can come to live action? So now are we going to do it again with an entire series?
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At the time I thought it was an either or, but I don't see why it has to be that. Because there was a lot of talk of, even before the season started, of with Ahsoka coming, like, are other Rebels characters coming? And I didn't want to see certain characters in Mandalorian. I didn't want to see the fate, let's say, of certain characters before seeing the supposed Rebels sequel, because without saying too much, Rebels is open-ended. Like the show ends in a very open-ended way. Like there's a goal and the show ends. And so I'm very curious now to see how Ahsoka got to from a certain point in Rebels now, especially given events of the series finale itself, which are actually shown technically in the holiday special that just came out. Which I was watching, and I'm like, is this canon? And I hope it's not.
But we're sure. We're sure it's not canon, right? Because
it can't be. It can't be. It's Lego. It can't be. But I lost my train of thought. Okay, I got it. But
My
I'm
bad.
curious now to see. No, no worries. But I'm curious now to see the Rebels sequel before we start bringing full throttle everything into the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. I could see like a Rebel sequel happening probably between seasons 2 and 3 of The Mandalorian.
Mhm.
Because we don't have like a date or timeline on season 3, do we?
They said it was the pandemic was not going to delay it. So
Oh,
for my money, it might come out next October, exactly a year from now, less than a year from now.
It's too far, man. I can't wait. Like just waiting for this season now, and even just now, like every episode that comes out, having to wait that week. It's like I need to know what's gonna happen next.
I just want to know what's going to happen in season 3. Like, I mean, I want to see the end of this, but I just need to know where it's going. You know, like, I mean, the ending's a big deal, but I just need to know what it's segueing into. Because I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. Is like just that week between is like killing me, but I think it's just killing me to know how things end and where the future of, Grogu and Mando lie.
Yeah.
So, if they kill a Baby Yoda, though, we riot.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Ren will probably cry. I mean,
I will.
He even said it too. I think it was episode 2, like when he fell off the speeder or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He was all,
Yes.
oh my gosh, my heart.
I don't like seeing Baby Yoda get hurt.
No, it's a very sad thing to see.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So Andy, I've got to ask you this because I'm just very curious. Because I know I think it was last episode or the one we did with Sean, but you said you're just kind of more of a casual Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Is this show possibly changing your mind?
Honestly, yeah, because it's like I mentioned that, like when I was watching trying to watch the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, the reason why I didn't like switch immediately, because I started to figure out early on I was watching the wrong episodes, like the last 4 of season 1, but because I was just kind of captivated, I was like watching it and I was just like feeling myself, I was enjoying it. And then I kind of like snapped out of it, was like, oh wait, this isn't the Siege of Mandalore. Right. So, it's definitely one of those things that's making me enjoy the lore, the world building. I didn't even know what the Darksaber was before this started. So I'm just like putting on my tinfoil hat, reading through all the pages and tangential pages of Wikipedia possible. It's like, yeah, this is shifting my gears. I'll be honest.
Cool. I like to hear that. I'm glad we can convert.
Yes. By the way, I was able to find it, and Grand Admiral is the highest rank in the Galactic Empire. So not only is Thrawn the only minority in there, he got the highest rank possible.
Man, that definitely shows you how you can raise up in the Empire.
Yep.
Yeah. There are very interesting scenes with him and Palpatine, and you can tell trading brain at each other, and Thrawn sometimes like catches him and he's like changes the topic because Thrawn just like won him over.
But I mean that also plays into the Empire not being big on minorities and such, right? That's why it feels all the more to me like they're harvesting Grogu or Baby Yoda, for midichlorians, right? Because Palpatine using like a alien body, as his, like transferring his soul to a non-human body wouldn't make much sense to me in the scheme of his beliefs and his whatever you want to call it, principles. I don't know. So I'm still going with that theory is midichlorian harvesting.
Yeah.
So now I remember I talked to you guys about this when we were just talking about The Mandalorian on my other podcast, but do you guys still think that now with what they're doing in this season, they're trying to build that Filoni-verse I brought up before?
Oh.
Because, I mean, like I said, we got Bo-Katan, we've gotten Ahsoka, and now we, as of now, might be getting Thrawn. I mean, obviously, Filoni brought Thrawn into canon with his appearance in Rebels. So, I mean, do you think him and Favreau are going to be working on a new series together, or, like you said, building this new world for us?
I think there's a good possibility for that, because I think Dave Filoni is a powerful creative force, but I also think he's humble enough to accept that, okay, I'm not ready to like be a showrunner alone in terms of live action, and his experience so far with Jon Favreau has been paying its dues. So I don't see no reason why he should drop that collaboration.
No, and I'm sure, especially since it's Disney, Marvel, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure those conversations are already being had. You know what I mean? About either a Filoni-verse or a billion spin-offs, probably some we're not even thinking of, because they already said they're doing, the Rebels tie-in, they're doing Obi-Wan still in the pipeline. I'm sure that Filoni-verse, I'm probably like 75%. I'd say 75% sure that that's going to happen at some point, because the dude got a final season of Clone Wars. That in and of itself is a big deal. So now that he's helping with the Mandalorian and brought Ahsoka and Thrawn into play, I feel, and Bo-Katan, like that's gotta be happening.
I mean, I wouldn't complain, because I know that, kind of sadly getting into like a little bit of the politics of Star Wars, but like everybody wants him to be, the new president of Lucasfilm. For me, it would be a very dumb decision to do that, because I will say this: him in a creative role is going to be way more beneficial to Lucasfilm than putting him at a desk and just being there and being like, okay, make me this now. Like, I mean, he's got such a creative mind. I mean, he was able to add to two of the biggest parts of Star Wars. He brought us the Clone Wars show, which is the most important part of the prequel trilogy. I'm going to say that, besides Anakin, but whatever. And I mean, Rebels. I mean, everything that he did in both of them shows. And like you just said, Andy, they gave him another season of Clone Wars set. Yeah. How many years after it originally ended?
But I mean,
not to mention another show, because the Bad Batch is coming next year.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was reading on that earlier.
That is true. But for me, I'm just gonna throw this out there. If he were to become president of Lucasfilm, Favreau needs to take his place, because right now, for me, Filoni and Favreau are like Vader and the Emperor. Like they're just this perfect blend together, man. I love how they have been doing everything in this show so far, and even again, like we talked about the final 4 episodes, the Siege of Mandalore arc with Ahsoka's story, I guess as a Padawan kind of ending.
Yeah.
And now seeing her in Rebels, which Andy, we're not going to spoil that for you, but seeing her come back in there and how she's evolved over the years, and now seeing her again in another time jump through 5 years after, I'm assuming, maybe the end of Rebels.
Yeah, because Rebels ends, I want to say 1 year, maybe even less before A New Hope.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess, because even my other question to both of you guys is, why do you think this episode was called The Jedi? Because Ahsoka is not a Jedi anymore.
I think there's 2 reasons. One reason is maybe to keep it simple for everyone and not get into semantics, because a lot of casual fans watch this show. We've talked about how this show attracts a 4-quadrant audience. So I think, like, just to keep it simple, she's a Jedi, she has lightsabers, whatever. Another possible reason is maybe since the show is The Mandalorian, everything is from his perspective, and so he went looking for a Jedi. At one point in time, at least, she was a Jedi, and Mando doesn't know her whole story, so he will see her as a Jedi. Even the people in the village, they called her a Jedi. They were like, "Oh, kill the Jedi, and I'll give you the spear and whatnot." So those are my 2 theories.
How about you, Andy? Do you have any?
I would, Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say either A, because even if she doesn't call herself a Jedi, or even if it's only by title, she still very much is a Jedi. She still very much wants for good, serves good, seeks to protect others. So just because she doesn't bear that title or follow those practices to the T, it's kind of like when we went into, Gray Jedi, where it's like complex, like the morality and she might not be a strict adherent to it, but she still knows about Jedi lore. She still is, on the light side. So I'd still say she is very much a Jedi, personally.
And then I guess my next question, because obviously, in The Rise of Skywalker, we hear her talk to Rey along with all the other Jedi, with Luke, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Mace,
yeah. We hear a character from Rebels as well, Kanan Jarrus.
You mentioned that, yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
We didn't hear Cal in there. Well, Cal's not.
No, we don't hear him.
But I want to know, how does she become one with the Force? Like again, are we gonna get an Ahsoka show? Are we gonna maybe see this battle between her and Gideon? Maybe Gideon's gonna kill her. Maybe she's been doing some studying or something. Maybe
it could be that, but also, and I'm just thinking of this now, talking about the Rebel sequel show. We call it a Rebel sequel as it happens after Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
But what if it happens after what we just saw this week in The Mandalorian as well? Like, what if Thrawn doesn't come into Mando, but the Rebel sequel show is that she's still in search of Thrawn, and we go back into animation, but it's after this very story that we just saw.
I suppose now that Andy's gone, we could talk a little bit about it, because
yeah, true.
Because seeing the way she is at the end of Rebels, she, like I brought up before, is she like a higher being now? Does she?
Yeah, she comes across, out of context. Andy won't understand the spoiler, so she comes across as a grand master. She comes across as a very wise sage. She doesn't even have the lightsabers at that point. So I want to believe they're not breaking canon or anything, but yeah, well, basically, Andy, we were just talking about what's going to happen now, and I brought up that we were talking about the Rebels sequel as in it's happening after Rebels, but what if it's happening after this episode of The Mandalorian?
Oh man, okay.
Not even that too, but how long has Ahsoka been on the planet of Corvus this whole time? Has
and
she
why?
been there? Yeah, and why? What's so important?
How'd she get her lightsabers back? Because at the end of at the end of Clone Wars, did she just build?
You gotta watch
ones?
Rebels. You gotta watch Rebels.
Gosh, dang it, man! You're killing me.
I'm sorry, but there's a reason. There's a reason why how she gets them back.
Of course there is.
Of course there is. There's always a reason. There's always a reason for them.
Well, I guess okay, yeah, okay, got it. Watching Rebels, watching Clone Wars. It's there. It's gonna happen.
Andy, I think after you and I watch Rebels, I think we need to get Ren back on here, and I think we need to just talk about Rebels.
Do it, and I'll rewatch it as well, because it's been a long time. I didn't have an excuse to rewatch it.
Deal.
Well, there you go. We'll do a Rebels podcast here eventually.
Rebels podcast.
Rebelorian. No, that doesn't work.
No.
Rebel talk.
Rebel talk. There you go. Okay. Yeah, man. This show is just insane. I've been saying it every single episode on just complete nauseum all the time. So I apologize if I say it again for the umpteenth time in this series, but this show, man, it's the building block for what's coming in the future of Star Wars. I'm still convinced if this Rian Johnson trilogy doesn't actually happen, which it's been very hush hush underneath the blankets a lot lately. So I don't even know if it's happening, or even now this suppose a Taika Waititi film that we're supposed to be getting eventually, but
that one, I believe it'll happen. I think that one for now, it's just hush hush because everything is quote unquote stopped at the moment. But that one, at this moment, at least, I believe that it's still coming.
Yeah, I could believe that's coming more than the Rian Johnson stuff, because, like I said, since they announced it with Last Jedi, and that's been 3 years now. It's
been 3 years.
It's been 3 years since The Last Jedi came out.
Like we're a few weeks away from officially like 3 years, but yes.
Oh wait, okay, 3 years, not Last Jedi, not Rise of Skywalker. Okay,
Oh,
wow.
It does feel like it's 2020. It's 2020. It does feel like 3 years.
Oh,
But Austin, before we close, I would like to bring back to your point that you were making of a lot of people talking about Dave Filoni becoming the head of Lucasfilm. I agree with you because I think that's a horrible idea. I love that Filoni as a creative force. I think he knows nothing of being a head of a studio. That's like, I don't know. I love James Gunn, but he'd be a horrible head of Marvel Studios, I think. But I'll tell you this much: if anything, someone that I see as a creative head of a studio after watching the documentary series, Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau is a studio head. The way he talks about bringing all the creatives in, all the directors, all the writers, and he talks about putting together this story, as in the whole first season, at least at the time. That's the head of a studio. And I know a lot of people bash on Kathleen Kennedy. I love most of the sequel trilogy. I love Rogue One. I really like Solo. I think she's an incredible producer. Steven Spielberg says she's an incredible producer, so I'll believe Steven Spielberg if the internet doesn't mind. But I think it's a mere case. Studio head is not exactly the position for her. But that's it. But adding to the point that you made earlier, if she was to be replaced as a studio head of Lucasfilm, Jon Favreau comes across as the right person for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's been proving it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and make a slight counterpoint. Is I think Dave Filoni could do it, and I say that could do it because sometimes it's about taking risks, and especially from like a comic industry standpoint, you can apply this to any industry, right? But from a comic industry standpoint, you have Image Comics is the first thing that comes to mind, right? Image Comics was founded by Robert Kirkman and Todd McFarlane, guy who did The Walking Dead and Invincible. And, both had worked for Marvel previously. And then Todd McFarlane of Spawn and Spider-Man fame. You know what I mean? So they were both like, co-founders, as well as I think Kirkman was like CEO of Image specifically. So you have these people who can like take these high visibility leadership roles, but who can still remain creatives, if only like through intermediaries or whatever. But yeah, sometimes you got to take risks. And if it doesn't pan out, then just trade them out for Favreau. I think either one of them would work. I think Favreau has a higher chance of being able to pull it off. But I think I could see Filoni as a president just because of his, at least connection to the creatives and what he's contributed to the Star Wars canon.
And he did work directly underneath George Lucas. Yeah. He's essentially George Lucas's apprentice.
Yes.
I mean, he just brought out some of the best Star Wars stuff for a lot of people, I guess. He brought out some of the best Star Wars stuff we've seen since the prequels, or even the original trilogy to some extent.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I like this Filoni kid. I like him. Let him do the Clone Wars.
Actually, this is going to sound weird. What I would not mind seeing is we've talked about the original Clone Wars animated series. I would be curious to see Genndy Tartakovsky, like somehow work his way into this. Like, once again, big risk because the dude's only done like 2D animation and comics, but I would be really curious if that could play out and how it would if he were to direct an episode or like, helm another miniseries or something.
Yeah, I think it's a risk, but I think like the Filonis, they got to start somewhere. So bringing in Genndy for one episode, maybe like next season or something, to just direct one episode. Maybe give him the shortest episode of the season. I don't know, but that could pay off really well. I really like that idea, Andy.
So this is a question I was thinking of all this last week here. If you could have one director direct a Star Wars movie or even an episode of The Mandalorian, who would you guys pick?
Ooh,
I'm torn on my answers.
My answers are going to be different because for movies, I think it has to be this person. For television, I'm a little bit more like lenient, because like yes, this person will direct an episode, but the next episode will be directed by someone completely different. So I'm almost not married to any idea. But on The Mandalorian, I like to see James Gunn come in, for instance. As far as movies are concerned, like my favorite directors coming to mind, I don't think they would ever do Star Wars. But with the look of Dune right now, I have to say Denis Villeneuve.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I'm liking that.
and he's like, that's a sexy choice.
Oh
Yes.
I didn't even think of that, man.
How about you, Andy?
I got two. Part of me, this is such a basic answer. Part of me wants to say Christopher Nolan, but like, which is once again basic answer, just because I loved Interstellar, even though it has different themes. But I'm also a little afraid that just with him, he might ground it too much and bring in like a little bit too much, and like also like a little bit too much like speculative sci-fi, into the Star Wars universe that deviates too hard away from its themes. But off the top of my head, this is going to sound real weird, but for a animated series, for a TV show, animated or live action, I would want to see Shinichiro. You had to look this up. Shinichiro Watanabe, who is the director of Cowboy Bebop.
Yes.
So
he's working on a Blade Runner anime.
Yeah. That's part of it. Is he did one of the 2049? I think 2049 Blackout or something.
He did the Blackout, yeah, the best one.
So I would be curious to see him because he did that. I think he worked on some Macross stuff. He did Space Dandy, I think, and Cowboy Bebop, and Samurai Champloo. So seeing him,
he did something else, some music anime of some kind that I haven't seen, but I know he worked on it.
Yeah, and that's like the cool thing is with Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop in particular, he blends action as well as music. So I think like just like it'd be interesting to see it take in that direction, the soundtrack for it, but also the choreography. You watch his shows and the fight choreography in them is amazing. Spike's kind of Jeet Kune Do or whatnot, and then just all the samurai action going on in Cowboy Bebop. I mean, you could get some intense lightsaber battles or just I don't know action in general. So.
I actually have another one. Someone that has previously, I don't think it was ever official, but at least rumored to have been connected to Star Wars, and I think he could fit into either movies or TV shows, and that would be James Mangold.
Oh, I'm 50-50 on him. Haven't seen the Wolverine and haven't seen the Wolverine and Logan in particular. Like
you haven't seen Logan?
No. I said having seen.
Okay.
Same thing. What?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be jealous because watching that film for the first time again is a treat. But okay.
Yeah, watching that and then watching the Wolverine, the uncut edition. Watching those give me faith. But I think he did the Gray, right? Did he?
No. That was Joe Carnahan.
Never mind. Okay, yeah, James Mangold, I could work with. Austin, what about you, man? Now, after these answers, I'm really curious what you got to say too.
God, I mean, mine are kind of just somewhat basic answers. I'd say one director I want to see come back to Star Wars, man, is Gareth Edwards. I think he could direct a beautiful episode of The Mandalorian. That's what I'd like to see him do is an episode of Mando. Well, film-wise, depending on what the story would be, my two choices. The first one, I don't think it ever happened, but I'd say Ridley Scott.
Oh,
just seeing how he's done, the Alien franchise, especially the last two. Those are two very beautiful movies.
Yeah.
And the second one, honestly, my favorite director of all time, James Cameron.
Oh, that's good too.
The way he did Avatar, and I just watched a movie of his here a few weeks ago called The Abyss.
So good.
It's very good. Just seeing how he can just build that tension for like something so dire. I feel like he could do it.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't mention my favorite director of all time, who Andy mentioned, Christopher Nolan, just because it's one of those. Yes, of course, I'd love to see him direct Star Wars, but he'd never do it. That's why I mentioned Denis Villeneuve, because he's sort of in that same camp, but he's already doing Dune, so I think that brings him a bit closer to maybe possibly do Star Wars one day. Andy, I do have to recommend, if you haven't seen it, from James Mangold, 3:10 to Yuma. With Christian Bale
That's also
and,
been on my
and
list
Russell
forever.
Crowe. A movie that's better than the original. That's a remake that's better than the original. And last year's Ford v Ferrari, which was my number 2 movie of the year.
That was him?
That was him.
Wow. Dang. Oh man, I did not know that. Sick.
We still got to do this Andy learning hour here pretty soon.
I know, man. I'm having to go. My media backlog's already jacked up, and I'm having to go through so much. This is awesome. Oh, I'm trying to think of that's this is a shot in the dark, but Alex Garland.
That's a great pick.
I'm a little iffy on him because some of his characters in some of his movies can come off as a little blandish, but at the same time, I still like a lot of their interactions. I like the shakiness of morality in his movies, and and kind of motivations. And I think he would add some slight horror themes to the Star Wars universe. That I'd love to see a horror movie set in the Star Wars universe. Honestly, that sounds weird because I was about to say Ari Aster, which exactly. That's the thing, right? Is I was about to say that, and then I was like, that's actually one of the worst ideas I've ever had.
Austin just now reminded me of the meme that's going around. Right, that's pretty popular right now, which is like the no.
But yeah, I'm gonna say this. When I first watched Hereditary, man, that I got to the end of that movie and I looked at my buddy. I'm like, that was so stupid. And then every time I've watched it now, I like it a lot more. But then I watched Midsummer, and I hate that movie.
Really?
It is so I hate it. I hate it.
I really hate Hereditary. Not that it's badly directed. In fact, the directing is my favorite part. It's the script and the characters and everything else. Like, that movie peaks with the car scene. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's where the movie peaks, and then it's just, okay, I've seen this a million times, this type of horror. And Midsummer, I really like.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So as far as the directing is concerned, I like Ari Aster, but I don't like anything else as far as his creative mind is concerned. So when I was with Austin, when you brought him up, it was like, oh no.
And that was part of it. I was about to say him because that's where my mind immediately went when I was thinking of a Star Wars horror movie. And then I immediately backpedaled because I was like, that is a categorically bad idea.
There were some talks, actually. They thought about doing a Star Wars horror film taking place on Hoth.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's a horror book, actually, called Death Troopers.
I know it's what you're talking about.
I think I've never read it, actually, but I know it exists.
Yeah, the cover is a bloody stormtrooper helmet with a spike going through it.
Exactly.
Also, another basic choice is Steven Spielberg. At the end of the day,
yes.
Once again, basic choice, but why not? Why not in terms of dudes?
But it's kind of the basic, but the one that makes the most sense because he's buddies with George Lucas. He has been forever, so he's like the one that's like this close to directing a Star Wars movie, but for some reason it has never happened. I hope we do get to see it in his lifetime.
Yeah, I could definitely see him not touching the franchise, though, out of sheer respect for Lucas.
Yeah,
but
I also understand that.
I would also not mind. I would also not mind seeing it from just from a stance of. I don't know. I also random thought. I also just thought of a Quentin Tarantino Star Wars.
That would be amazing.
That's gonna happen when they do movies that start with "This is not canon."
Well, there's all the talks about him doing a Star Trek movie. So,
that's over. That's over, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not gonna happen anymore.
Dang it, man. I really wanted to see what they did.
Me too.
Well, to your guys' point with Christopher Nolan and Ren, I think you'll know what I'm talking about here, but I could see him doing a movie of like the world between worlds. I think he could tie that up really well.
Yes. That again, he's so much that director that he's never going to do it. I hadn't thought about it, but that's a brilliant choice, Austin. That's really, really a good choice.
Well, guys, I think we pretty much covered everything. We just got to do the usual. And of course, I want to start with Andy again because I know he hates doing this. Man, what would you give this episode?
10 out of 10, easily. Top of my list, number 1 episode this season. I mean, good night. It just delivered on so much. It was one of the best payoff episodes in this series. It was a critical turning point, even out of all 13 chapters. I mean, yeah, 10 out of 10, number 1 episode in this season so far for me.
Ren?
This is my favorite episode of the entire show. I love it to no end. I'm going to give it a 9.8 out of 10, only because I have 2 gripes, and I admit that they're fanboy, stupid, ridiculous, nitpicky gripes. That there's the Leiku on Ahsoka on the top of her head are shorter than they should be. I know that's really stupid, but still it bothered me. And there's a part of me that loves Michael Biehn so much. It kind of sucked seeing him as such a disposable character. Again, these are really stupid. I should give it a 10 out of 10, but I can't get past them. So forgive me, internet.
Actually, I do need to backpedal based on that. I might do like 9.8 or 9.9 just because, like I said, the lighting, that's what the lighting is still one of my gripes. But other than that, once again, that's kind of subjective because I was watching it on my iPad, so that's not going to be the best display. So,
Andy.
I know, but it's still. But yeah, so once the lighting's still like even like after like reviewing it, like and looking at it, I mean, like just either way, yeah, that's my small grievance. So I'm on the fence. I'll just say 10 because critical episode and really good. Austin,
I'd say probably like a 9.75.
Okay,
I'm with Andy. Like, yeah, I watched it on my fiance's Kindle, and yeah, it was that opening part was pretty hard to see a lot of things, but other than that, man, I mean, like I said, perfect blend. You get some Western, you get a lot of samurai elements, you get a lot of delving into the Force, you get Grogu's backstory and his name and everything. You get to see him and Mando react more. We get a new weapon of Beskar for Mando, which cannot wait to see that battle with Moff Gideon. Oh, I cannot wait. It's gonna be so good. Oh, I can't wait. I'm not gonna lie to you two, man. This is gonna be sad when this is over because I've been enjoying these little talks every week, getting a nerd out about Mando.
Yeah.
Same. We'll just do something on my channel at some point, and like we'll nerd out about. There will be stuff to nerd out about, but yeah, doing a podcast on each episode has been nice because you get to unpack it each week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
I agree.
With that being said, you guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Talkalorian. I, of course, want to thank Ren and Andy for coming back as always, man. And next week, we're going to have some more fun talking about the newest episode of Mando. So, and like always, too, I put Andy and Ren's channels down in the description below. So make sure you guys get on over there if you haven't. Check out their channels. Send them that SPC love. And with that being said, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already.